Then we come to Emil Nolde. Now, he left Debrück in 1907, 1908, and he will be inspired by primitive non-Western work, primarily the work of Micronesia. But he's kind of this interesting mix because he is both attracted to and repulsed by this primitive work. He appreciates the spiritual force, this primitive spirit that we've kind of touched on since the Fauves, but he has a racist disgust of cultural mixing. Kind of six of one, half a dozen of another. He's on both sides of the same spectrum. It's a very interesting bit of cognitive dissonance. He's a strong German nationalist and sought the regeneration of Volk, of German spirit. This primitivism was translated into works with Christian and Jewish undertones. Nolde's adoption of a modernist style with a traditional subject caused his contemporaries to believe he was desecrating religion with his caricature-like depictions. In other words, his pieces aren't finished enough. They aren't appropriate for these very reverent religious pieces. And this causes this visceral and forceful sense in the viewer that something is particularly wrong. Not to Nolde. Now, he's not trying to be disrespectful. This is simply his style. This primitivism coming out in a subject that he's interested in, these Christian Jewish subjects. But the use of the subject mixed with the technique, well, that's going to cause a problem. And we see that here with Pentacost. Now, this piece is painted in a state of religious exaltation, as Nolde tells us. I was obeying an irresistible need to represent a deep spirituality, as if you could see him sitting there almost shaking, vibrating with the energy that he needs to get out onto the canvas. He can't not do it. And we get that sense of energy in the painting, in the brushwork. We have this sort of larger-than-life, almost clumsiness to some of the form. But when you look at that form, oftentimes that clumsiness can also be energy. And it also reflects this idea of primitivism, of bringing up that primitive spirituality, that innocent spirituality that he sees within these people, the apostles, that he doesn't see in modern society at the beginning of the 20th century. He sees modern society as missing that, much like Kirchner says that's missing and blames it on the middle class and consumerism. Here Nolde is saying it's missing. He's just not arguing why necessarily, or maybe he's making the argument that it's because of a lack of religion. Either way, this energy is apparent through color and brushwork, and this is supposed to be energy in terms of religious exuberance, religious fervor. But the way it comes across and the way many people read it is this sort of inappropriate caricature of a very important religious scene. And we're going to see the same thing a couple of different times.